All right, let's get into these fucking bangers that happened. Let's get into start with the early prelims. The things that I'll talk about the ones I thought were fun. The first one that I thought was pretty good was the Terrence McKinney. That was it was fun because it was funny because of a couple of things. One, it was super fast. It was like 7 seconds, like comically quick. It was like literally off the. I don't know if the what's his name Matt Frivola. That's what it was. Um, I don't know if he's looking like in training camp or something. Maybe he's like leaving it in the training room in the sparring or something, or maybe I don't know what it is, but it was like he just like cold cocked off that like first jab stunned him, and then the right hand just like folded him like a pair of dirty shorts. Um, it's a bit unfortunate, really. It's like really nothing happened. It's just like got out there, boom, boom. Um, and it was even more ironic that like the announcers were gassing him up, bigging him up for like saying he's like loves the exchanges, dog in the fight, getting you expecting something, and then he just literally out the first exchange just got put out. It's a bit of unfortunate timing. And then after McKinney puts him out, he runs around the cage all pogged up. He goes and like does a little muscle up on the fence, kicks his legs a little, jumps down, and then on the landing, he must have done something to his knee because he drops and he's like in obvious kind of pain on the ground, like pointing to his knee. I mean, he said he just pulled it. I'm doubtful he just pulled his knee. I mean, like the way I mean, the impact. I mean, the type of. I don't think you could like just pull a muscle from landing like that. It seemed maybe like he hurt a tendon or maybe an ACL, MCL. I don't know. But there hasn't been any statement as far as I know about it. But I'd be interested to see. But he also came off a win 8 days ago and then took this fight. So it's pretty impressive for the guy. Apparently he also like was pronounced dead twice. Like I haven't looked into the story too much, but apparently he's got an interesting life. But after that, I thought the Movsar Evloev Hakeem Dawodu fight was really good. It was really the first round or two. I think it was the first 2 rounds that Evloev was really just dominating in the grappling. You could just tell there was a difference there. Like it was on the feet, and you could tell it was competitive on the feet between Dawodu and Evloev. But after the first round and the first takedown, like it's very clear that there was a skill differential there. And it's interesting because Dawodu's pretty good at anti takedown defense and like being a strong based guy who can stay on the feet and land his bombs. So I thought that was pretty impressive. I feel like it really shows how good Evloev is. And the featherweight division is just full of great fucking wrestlers. So that'll be interesting to see how he shakes out in there. But yeah, it was a good unanimous decision win from him. The last round, Hakeem started to find his rhythm a bit more. He was able to stay on the feet. He was putting punches on Evloev. He was looking a little better, but it was just a little too little too late. But that was a scrap. That was a good one. And the top of the prelims, Dober versus Riddell, was an absolute banger. Great adjustments by both guys throughout the fight. It did go the distance. Started first round, Dober was having the more success on the feet. He had seemed to find his range and his timing sooner, and he was unloading with more power and more volume. He's kind of overwhelming Riddell off bat, and you could kind of tell. You can see these shots landing. Riddell's wobbling on the feet, and it was like, oh. You could tell he was having to really dig deep to kind of keep it together, and he had to use some panic wrestling, which he did do well, to keep it together, get it to the fence, get his senses back. But by the end of the first round, he had kind of gotten things to where he'd wanted it. It was actually landing some good counters because when they were engaging, both were kind of like meeting in the pocket and going to exchange. And Dober was just faster. He was landing cleaner straights, and he was just in there quicker and doing more. But Riddell would go in, like look like as if he were to go in, and then he would pull back and allow Dober to overextend himself throwing punches, and then he would throw a right. I don't know if he stands south. I can't remember if he stands southpaw or orthodox, but his rear hand straight, and he was landing clean on Dober near the end of the first round. And then in the second round, he was also finding the same counter, and he was using it well. He was countering Dober, the same one, kind of letting Dober overextend, fall onto that lead straight. And Drew made an adjustment by making a great takedown and putting Riddell to the fence, mixing it up, because he was then now kind of momentum was shifting toward Riddell. He was kind of struggling. Great takedown to mix it up, get Riddell thinking of something else, and stop the success, the momentum of Riddell. Counter wrestling by both were really good. They were both switching at each other, defending each other very well. I don't believe it got anything super bad. I don't think like anyone got on their back and they were in guard or anything like that. But I did notice Riddell was having good success with elbows on the break. He would break out, very like the Leon Edwards-esque. He'd step out, boom, with that elbow just immediately on the head on the break. He was doing really good on that. It's a good reactive takedown by Riddell in the second round too, to counter the combinations of Dober, because that's kind of where he finds success, is in the pot. I feel like Dober is really good at throwing these clean straights. He doesn't really have he's more of a shorter to mid-range fighter. He isn't super long with his strikes, but in that short to mid-range, where the more mid-range strike would be his left straight, he throws it super tight and it really sneaks through the guard. And then his hooks, he's got thunderous hooks. But Riddell was doing good at avoiding that, keeping his strikes long, and then when it gets inside where that danger zone is, he was performing takedowns and making Dober have to fight it. And you could start to see Dober tiring out. Riddell was doing good things like throwing teep kicks, hitting the tummy, getting Dober to tire out even more, taking some of that explosivity out of the tank. Riddell by this point, but round two was, I would say, round one you would probably give to Dober. Round two was the momentum had shifted over to Riddell. And then the same thing in the third round. Both were doing good and both were landing things, but Riddell was he's just fresher. He was making better strike choices. Even though there was moments where he was in danger, he was really holding it together, composed. And he landed a super big punch the last round. It was very close, and Drew has a crazy chin. The guy, both of them have crazy chins, but Drew was really not even stumbling off of any of them. And Riddell finally caught him he swung with a big one as Drew was starting to slow down, getting a bit more lazy and obvious with his attempts. He landed this wicked overhand just from the hip, right, just swung, boom, smacked him. It almost took him out. He was staggering, went backward. It was a really strong end to the third round for Riddell. And then that was the fight, and Riddell did get the victory. Both of these guys fought great. Riddell afterward, they had said, I think all of the guys from the camp were talking about how someone there died, so you can kind of see it in the fight. You can tell there was some motivation from beyond the fight pushing them. But yeah, that was a really good fight. Definitely one of the fight of the nights for sure. And then moving right on up, Hill versus Craig was crazy. These guys had a little squabble, a little beef beforehand. So they were coming into it kind of heated. Hill is the much heavier striker on the feet, and Paul Craig is a super good submission artist, very strong, he's one of the few people who's actually very dangerous off his back. There's not many. There's a lot who will you're just laying in their guard, but he's got a very active guard. It's very dangerous to be in there. And the first, I think it was like a minute or so on the feet, Craig was throwing jabs and teeps, and then he pulls Hill. He kind of gets a, I think I don't know if he had gotten a body lock as an upper body lock or just like overhooks, and then he went for like a pulling backward trip. Hill kind of countered it by twisting, and then Craig eventually was able to pull him into guard. And when he did pull him into guard, he immediately got the like Craig Jones overhook that he does a lot on like his back. A lot of those Danaher Death Squad guys do it. Laying on their back, they throw that overhook over the arm, and Hill was just putting his hands like on the mat, which is making that arm just super vulnerable. And Craig had a super tight hold on it. He's starting to expose that arm a bit. He even sweeped with it. He performed a sweep. I don't know what it's called, but he flipped and swept Hill over once on that arm using that overhook. And then immediately he gets Hill back into his guard and gets that same fucking overhook immediately. Threatening that same thing, putting pressure on the arm, and then he goes for the sweep and switches off to the other arm, exposing an arm bar. Hill's really got to fight it. He's fighting, and then Craig just bends that arm around the corner, and then his forearm dislocates out at the elbow, and you see it just like wobbling. The arm is no longer functional. It's like you can't use that anymore, and you see it just bouncing around. He's like looks to the ref, who's just like, I've never seen this ref before. He looked like literally the oldest bag of bones I've ever seen. The ref just like stares at it, it's like doesn't stop or anything, and Craig he's still got him in this like triangle, and he just goes to town like elbowing and hammer fisting Hill, and you just see the dude's like arm rubber bouncing around. It was by far it was a brutal stoppage. I don't know, definitely should have been stopped at the arm break, but he got pounded another like 15 seconds or something, and then they called it. Nothing super bad happened to the arm. It just seemed to be a dislocation, and but that was really good. That was crazy, super effective grappling. It was probably a combination of Hill's lack of knowledge there, and Craig's just vast skill there. But that was super good. And then we had Muhammad versus Maia. I kind of was thinking Bilal would be able to do some work in this fight against Maia because he has good takedown defense. I was interested to see how well his striking held up without using his takedowns as a weapon, which it was a slower fight from him, but he just was much cleaner on the feet. Stopped Maia's takedown attempts, and Maia was coming out the gate hot, trying to get it, and kind of gassed himself out. Maia was landing good lefts, though. He does it all the time. Like in all of his fights, he lands these lefts because people are so worried about that, ducking in on the takedown. And that left he throws like very straight. It's very tight, It's not super like powerful, but he throws a very tight one. It's very deceptive. But yeah, this fight was mostly, it was just all 3 rounds were the same sort of thing, and it was Bilal throwing left hooks, finding home incessantly. His jab was doing work, peppering up the face of Maia. I would love it if Bilal could if he could dial in his right straight, because his left hand is super educated. He has a great jab, really good left hooks, but the guy cannot. I don't know. He struggles with like the straight hook, or it's not straight hook, just the straight right down the pipe. Like, I don't know. It's like he's always coming with a weird kind of like overhand or whipping, and I know it's tough coming from a wrestling background, but that would really set this guy's hands up. It would put like some real danger. I would like, those left hooks and things that he has are kind of slappy, and they're really good at like warding people and getting them to get those hands up. If he had like a real showstopper, put a little more pepper in that right hand. because the guy's got, he has the, I mean, like if you look at his left hand and the way he throws these hooks and these straights, he has the capability. I mean, he's throwing really good. He's got good technique on it, you know, and he looks pretty good throwing these hands for, especially for a guy. I don't know what he comes in as a background, but it seems like a wrestler type background. But yeah, this was a 3-round kind of just picking apart, just getting chipped away. Left hand mastery by Bilal. It was good win for him after getting his fucking eye destroyed. It's kind of funny that these guys are fighting on the same card. Maybe a fight. I feel like they got to be like trying to do a fight, running it back between Edwards and Muhammad here soon. That must be the only reason I could see them doing this. Putting them on the same card like that. I mean, unless they give Edwards the title shot right away, but we'll get into that as we talk about that fight, which it happened next. So this was a super interesting fight for a lot of reasons. Edwards, it was basically just 5 rounds of getting picked apart with some caveats there at the end that we'll get into as we talk about. I'll talk through the rounds a bit and the things I saw that were interesting. You could tell that Diaz was uncomfortable, kind of not uncomfortable, but that he knew that there was like the technical difference in the feet was different, because he was doing a lot of like showboating and doing a lot of weird things, trying to kind of like pull Leon out of his stance and his game plan, get him maybe thinking weird stuff, you know, because right away you can see Edwards he's just much faster, throwing fast jabs, really ripping into that lead leg hard early, you know, just slamming these low kicks into it. And then the super interesting thing was they get into the clinch and Edwards does this great little duck under to the back, takes down, and gets like to this like 3/4 rear naked choke position where Diaz's back is on the ground and Edwards is kind of on the side. He had like maybe half of a triangle in. I don't know how his hooks were looking, but he held good control there. And then he got up as Diaz retained guard, which made me very happy because I've seen the guy do like, he'll keep wrestling with a grappler, even though he could just get up and keep doing good on the feet, you know? Maybe just to prove that he's like good at wrestling and stuff. But here it was very wise. Right as Diaz gets back to an advantageous position, had to work for it, he stands up, makes Diaz get up again, and you know, did the things that he'd been doing, just throwing jab and low kicks to finish up the round. And round 2, Diaz was doing a lot more of the weird stuff, doing, you know, just like turning to the side, bending over at the knees, like Jorge Masvidal like esque, like, you know, just like playing around, like making it look like you're not fighting. Oh, I gotcha. But it, like, Edwards was not biting on any of it, just staying back, playing smart, just picking them apart, just like. And when Diaz would get in close, he was landing these super McGregor-esque, like twisting, chopping left hands that you'd see like McGregor throw in his fights. Like, yeah, he's really it's like he's throwing the left hand, he's getting the most power into it, like for a close left that's not being fully extended. He's like really twisting his body, the elbows kind of coming up high. It's kind of, I don't know what you would call it as a strike, but I always call it like a twisting, kind of like torquing straight, left straight. And he was throwing those and they were landing really good on Diaz. That was really good. He got the same back take as round 1. Got to the clinch, did the little duck under to the back, takes him down to the ground again, and then Diaz was in and then got into a deep half guard and started working on a heel hook, which he did. That was one of the moments of danger I saw in the fight. Was Edwards did not defend very well. He could have gotten injured. Diaz really just used the heel hook there to like sweep, but if he was really sunk in on it, he could have fucked him up. He could have fucked him up for real. Because Edwards pulled away when he got heel hooked instead of just basing down and putting pressure and putting weight on his leg into the floor. He like pulled away quickly, which is like a surefire way if someone actually has a bite on your heel to like just get it torn. Luckily, he didn't have it on there, but that was something. That was a moment where I was like, "Uh oh, that was vulnerability there by Edwards. Hope he doesn't get there again." But after that, that was about it. He just got back up to the feet and more of what he had been doing, just picking him apart with that jab and that low kick. Round 3, Edwards slowed a bit. Not crazy, but he was a bit slower than the first 2 rounds. Not as snappy and speedy as he was doing. Still mostly with what, just more of round 2, just kind of like jabs, good straights, good low kicks. There was some big ground and pound from Edwards. He had gotten a takedown and landed big elbows, like dropping them on Diaz's face as he is like kind of floating above Diaz. It's really good. Got some good cuts on Diaz's face. And then in round 3, you can start to see Diaz starting to find a bit more of his success. You can start seeing him touching Edwards more. He's getting in there, landing a bit more. But Edwards just keeps repeatedly getting that back take, and just making Diaz work out of that position, and he was kind of struggling. And then he just kept getting these elbows in on these ground exchanges. The round 4, there was a good step-in knee by Edwards I saw that I liked. There was, I don't know, I forget what round it was too, but there was a sweet takedown, like a step across takedown that was really good. It was a sweet trip he got on Diaz. He even got a little props from Diaz after he hit it. Again, Diaz was landing a bit more round 4, but it's still just like the same constant pressure from Edwards. Like, he's just still rolling at that same pace. Just landing good 2 to 3 piece combinations. I guess it was round 4. I wrote a little note about the trip. Edwards was doing a lot of stance switching as well, which was confusing Diaz a bit. And then more of those twisting lefts from Edwards. Round 5 was the really interesting one, because it was more of like what we had seen from round 4, but at the end, like literally the last minute or so, Diaz is starting to turn it up a bit more, and you see Edwards back away, and Diaz pulls up and just does a little Stockton slap, and then he puts some weight into it, puts a nice like left hand on the chin, and completely fucking levers Edwards' chin. Like, you see his head just completely like the Masvidal fight against Usman, where like Usman just, you see Masvidal's head just like rolling around. Like, that was the exact same thing. You see Edwards is barely in it. Like, he's got like a little smirk on his face as he's like stumbling back to the cage. There was definitely like, he could have been down for the count there, and Diaz just points at him and lets him circle out. And it's truly, I feel like there's no greater end to the fight, because, everyone wins. Edwards actually gets the win, and then all the Diaz fans get to be like, but what if it was round 6? Or if the fight goes 1 minute longer, Diaz would have won. It's so good. But in all fairness, Diaz really did turn it up at the end there, and like, it's like you wish the guy could have done it a little sooner, or just finish the fight. If he got the fucking finish there, that would have been so cool, But, I mean, I get why he didn't. It's because the dude's fucking leg was, like, torn up, But besides that end there, it was a fantastic, like, flawless performance. It was a great fight. Another fucking barn burner. And then we get in to the first of the 2 rematches of the night. We had Figueiredo versus Moreno. Brandon Moreno. Right off bat, I thought Figueiredo was looking he looked smaller than the last fight. his eyes looked more like sunken in. He did not look as like full and healthy. Um, that's what was one of the things I wrote down like immediately when I just saw him like walking out and got into the cage. Um, and even right as they start fighting, Moreno comes out fast. He's ready to roll. A slower start from Figueiredo. He's throwing a lot of these like weird one-off strikes in the first round, and Moreno was finding his timing, landing good punches and leg kicks. He landed a pretty good. He landed a really big hook at the end of round 1 and dropped Figueiredo, and then got top. And then he had top control for I think a good chunk of the round there until Figueiredo recovered and got back up. But definitely you'd give round 1 to Moreno. Figueiredo, I don't even really know if he landed anything of significance. He was really throwing a lot of like weird punches, and he also, like right off bat, he wasn't even fighting similarly to what he normally had been doing, which is like, stalking, walking down opponents right off bat. If you throw something at me, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to like land this big right hand and make you second guess you throwing anything at me, But there was none of that. He was like kind of like, looked more of like a point fighting kind of like floating stance, and he was going back a lot, defending. I don't know what he was looking for, but he definitely didn't find it in round 1. Round 2, Figueiredo was a little busier at the start, and he got a good takedown when he was holding Moreno in like a cradle position, and it was working for a guillotine. But Moreno reversed and was able to body lock Figueiredo to the cage, and were able to get him back to the ground. And Moreno was able to hold top guard, but while he was holding top position over Figueiredo was landing really good elbows by like extending out his abdomen and pulling his arm back and then crunching in and like pulling Moreno into these like, I don't know what even you would describe that as other than what I said, but they were super effective, and you even saw like a big lump on the side of Moreno's head forming after the round had finished. And then round 3, the momentum seemed to have shifted toward Figueiredo a little bit at the beginning of round 3, but then Moreno comes in with an amazing short right hand, ducks in on a takedown, and gets to Figueiredo's back. He's working a rear naked choke. He almost gets the choke. He's working for a bit. He's kind of peppering him in the face, and then he really does sink the choke in, and he's able to tap the champ out. And then, Moreno has it was like very akin to like the Oliveira win, where you just like, you can't help but be happy for the dude. You can tell how much it means to him and his family. He's super, super proud and pogged up, That was a great post-fight interview, and good respect by Figueiredo at the end. He wasn't salty. He took his chips with his dip, took his L with class. That was nice. But yeah, that was a really good fight. Did not see Moreno finishing it. But yeah, he just looked a lot better. Just looked a cut above tonight for basically the whole fight. I'm interested to see what fights are next for him in this division. I don't know who's going to be getting the shot next, but they got a tough opponent there ahead of him. And then we got the final rematch of the night. The fight everyone had been waiting for, Adesanya Vettori 2. The walk-in for Adesanya, the dude was wearing some crazy, like, I don't even, what do you call it? I don't even know. It looked like some demon mask or something. It was crazy. He had like the rice hat on. He was looking like some samurai or something. It was pretty funny. Round 1, it was kind of what on the Adesanya special, nice jabs. He slams those fucking legs immediately round 1. It's just what he does, And Vettori did not check a single fucking leg kick the whole fight. Didn't like pull his leg back out of any, like, the guy just ate them flush for 5 rounds. Which is brutal. It's like the man's hindering his game plan off rip, but He timed a good takedown though, like a minute 30 into round one, off a leg kick. He grabbed it, forced Adesanya to the ground, and he was able to have a, I would say, controlling position for about like a minute 30, and then Adesanya was able to like work to his feet, get to the fence, and break away. And then the rest of the round, he was showcasing really good head movement. He would like position himself on the fence, very Roy Jones-esque, like hands behind the back, just weaving the head around, making Vettori miss. It was really good. And then even by round one, you could tell the lead leg was getting compromised a bit. Like he's just landing so much flush low kicks for a 5-round fight already in round one. It was just crazy. Round two, it kind of felt like Adesanya was flowing a bit, less of the measuring, tactical poking. He was kind of letting go with more head kicks. Excuse me. Head kicks. He was being more wild with his strike choice, looking for bigger shots. Again, not leaving the leg kicks alone. I could see him looking for the left hook on the inside, like the ones the pulling away of his head, and then landing those left or right hook. You know, the ones that he hits like Costa and Whitaker with and finished him with. But he wasn't really getting that look from Vettori. The one thing I was seeing was Vettori was kind of consistently getting flustered on the inside, like as in exchange. Like he would be reaching over for Adesanya. He would be getting, after he's like thrown a punch or two and missed, he would get very flustered and there would be openings and you would see Adesanya like looking, but it just seemed like he didn't really know what the right tool to capitalize on that moment was. Because it happened like a couple times. You'd see like he's very out of position. He has no real guard set up and he's obviously like flustered and then there's like time to capitalize, but you know, that would have been nice. Could have maybe got a finish. But, you know, round two was just continual prodding. A couple good jabs, though, at the end of round two for Vettori. Round three, Vettori got a takedown right out of the gate. And he got Adesanya's back and almost gets choked. But then he just spun in guard, reversed, and got on top. And then Vettori used the heel hook to sweep. Which was sorry, that was it was really good. It was a good. I like seeing people sweep with the heel hook. It's a great way to get back up to the feet. You really don't see him get to finish with it, but it's really just like, you know, they are forced to address it and it changes the position. It's a sweet move. More low kicks. What do you know? Just slamming that lead leg. And it seemed by round three, Vettori had gotten to that like deer in headlights place where it's like you're just standing in front of him. You're not really throwing because you're just like waiting for what's coming because you're seeing him just constantly feed you these feints. And then he's slamming your low leg, then he's kicking up at the head, and then he's jabbing, and then, you know, it just never stops. That was pretty cool though. Round four, Vettori was much more aggressive and he shot a double and got it on the fence and got him to the ground. But then immediately Adesanya he gets swept and gets right up to the fence. Or he just gets right back up to his feet, you know. It's just you can tell it's just demoralizing now. He was getting I feel like Adesanya was getting a bit lazy near the ends of the round with the defensive strategy, just of like the post and retreat, you know? There's leaving things to be exploited. Just because Vettori was not capable of exploiting it this fight. I mean, if I'm like Whitaker watching this for the next fight, if he's able to make it into these deeper waters, like, these are things to exploit. Like, the guy loves to fucking post hand, retreat head, like, punish the leg on the retreat or punish the body because they're always going to be there. But besides that, you know, he's just looking multiple cuts above Vettori this whole fight. A lot of showboating near the end. Like, I think at the end of round four was the ass slap where like Vittori's in on a single leg and he just like Give him a couple good sport slaps back there. It was pretty good. Round 5. You could tell the whole fight, like Marvin in his corner, Rafael Cordero, and like they're kind of squabbling. Like I think Vittori thinks he's winning these rounds, and Cordero's being very blunt. Like you've lost. Like oh, that was another round we didn't get. Like you need to be more busy in there. You got to be first. I mean, I get it from Vittori's perspective. You're like, dude, I'm trying. I can't, But also, shit, man, it's just the way fucking life rolls. Sometimes you got to go do it. Yeah, they were having. You could tell there was some strife occurring in that corner. I think Vittori was a bit delusional about how the fight was playing out. I don't know what he's seeing that he was doing. Like there truly was not really many moments of success, big or small, for Vittori in this fight. Round 5, just more of the other rounds. A lot of showboating from Adesanya. Probably the funniest one was there's at this point in the fight, like Vittori is just the punches he's throwing are so soft because it's like when you're missing a fighter like Adesanya so much, it's like you every time you throw a punch, you're like, well, I'm not even gonna land this. I don't even need to put that. Why even punch hard? I'm just gonna tire myself out, and I'm not gonna hit him, But so he was punching like that, and he lands like a jab, and it's like the softest like baby jab, and then it lands on Adesanya, and you see him like grab his eye, like ah. It was pretty good. It's a lot of mocking of Vittori. You can kind of tell by this end of the round, like Vittori was a bit mentally defeated here, like. It's like, there's what else can you tell yourself? It's like, I'm not able to beat this guy right now, and he's kind of like making fun of me. It was he seemed tired as well. Like he's trying for these takedowns, not able to get them. It was a bit of a boring end to the fight. But it's a very decisive win for Adesanya. I would have liked to see a finish, but I mean, Vittori's a tough fucking guy. He wasn't really getting wobbled, and he wasn't really leaving a lot of things out on a platter. Like he was the things that were landing, Adesanya was drawing out of him, and he was defending well, but he's just still getting just outpointed for the whole fight. But yeah, and that one led in for another dub for Adesanya. I hear that Whitaker Adesanya is up next. I'm fucking excited for that one. That's like the only real fight in the middleweight division right now. But yeah, it was a great night of fights. I'm going to be getting this breakdown of the upcoming card out soon. Keep an eye out for that. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Have a good one.